I never thought a simple email would be the thing to unravel my entire life. But there it was, glowing on my husband's laptop screen at 2 a.m., while I was just trying to print out worksheets for my students. My name is Harper, and until last night, I thought I had the kind of marriage other people envied. The kind where you finish each other's sentences and still laugh at inside jokes from your first date. Ethan and I had been together for 8 years, married for 5 of those. He was the guy who brought me coffee in bed every Sunday morning and never forgot to kiss me goodbye, even when he was running late for work. Your flight confirmation for the Chicago conference next week, the email subject line read. Nothing unusual there, Ethan traveled frequently for work. But something made me pause. Maybe it was the way he'd been guarding his phone lately, or how he'd started working later and later. I clicked the email. The confirmation showed 2 seats. First class. I felt my stomach drop as I scrolled down and saw the hotel reservation. 1 room, king bed, 5 nights at the Drake Hotel. The booking was under Mr. and Mrs. Ellis, but I definitely wasn't the Mrs. Ellis going to Chicago. My hands were shaking as I opened his sent folder. Dozens of emails to someone named Vanessa Reed. The most recent one made me feel like I'd been punched in the gut. Can't wait to hold you again. These stolen moments aren't enough anymore. I heard footsteps on the stairs and quickly closed the laptop. Ethan appeared in the doorway of our home office, his hair messed up from sleep. Everything okay, babe? It's late, he said, rubbing his eyes. I forced a smile. Just printing some things for tomorrow's class. My voice sounded strange, too high-pitched. Go back to bed. He nodded, stifling a yawn. Don't stay up too late. Love you. Love you too, I replied automatically, the words tasting like ash in my mouth. After he left, I sat there in the dark, trying to make sense of it all. The Ethan I knew wouldn't do this. The Ethan I married wouldn't. But then again, maybe I didn't know him as well as I thought. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to my sister Chloe, then deleted it. What would I even say? Hey, guess what? Your brother-in-law's cheating on me with someone named Vanessa. It felt too raw, too real to put into words yet. Instead, I went through the motions of printing my worksheets. My students were counting on these for tomorrow's lesson on Romeo and Juliet. The irony wasn't lost on me, teaching teenagers about love and betrayal while my own marriage was apparently nothing but a carefully crafted lie. As I gathered my papers, a new email notification popped up on Ethan's laptop. From Vanessa Reed, missing you already. Dinner was perfect tonight. Tonight. While I'd been grading papers and making dinner for one because Ethan had texted that he was stuck in a late meeting, he'd been with her. I closed the laptop and went upstairs to our bedroom. Ethan was already asleep, looking peaceful and innocent. I stood there watching him breathe, remembering how just yesterday I would have crawled into bed and curled up against him without a second thought. Now I couldn't bear to touch him. I grabbed my pillow and headed to the guest room, my mind racing with questions. How long had this been going on? Who was Vanessa Reed? And most importantly, what was I going to do about it? One thing was certain, Ethan's perfect little world was about to come crashing down. He just didn't know it yet. I made it through exactly 3 classes before breaking down in the faculty bathroom. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely text Chloe, "Need you. Can you meet for lunch?" The morning had been a blur of trying to act normal while my students discussed the tragic romance of Romeo and Juliet. Every time I heard the word love, I felt like throwing up. When Lucas, my colleague who taught in the classroom next door, asked if I was okay, I barely managed a nod. Chloe was already waiting at our usual cafe when I arrived. One look at my face and she knew something was wrong. "Harper, you look like hell. What happened?" I opened my mouth to tell her, but the words wouldn't come. Instead, I pulled out my phone and showed her the screenshots I'd taken of Ethan's emails. "That son of a bitch," Chloe whispered, her face darkening as she scrolled. "How long have you known?" "Found out last night." My voice cracked. He's taking her to Chicago next week. 5 days at the Drake Hotel. On your anniversary weekend? Chloe's knuckles went white around her coffee cup. I'll kill him. The worst part is, he's acting completely normal. Made me breakfast this morning, kissed me goodbye like nothing's wrong. I stabbed at my untouched salad. I don't even know who he is anymore. Have you Googled her? Chloe asked, already typing on her phone. Vanessa Reed. Oh. Oh wow. What? She turned her phone toward me. There she was, young, gorgeous, smiling confidently in her corporate headshot. Vice President of Marketing at Ethan's company. My stomach lurched. She's everything I'm not, I said quietly. Stop that right now, Chloe snapped. You're smart, successful, and way too good for him. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, having dinner with clients tonight. Don't wait up. Chloe read the message over my shoulder and swore. Clients. Right. Want me to follow him? No, I said, surprising myself with how steady my voice was. I have a better idea. That evening, I drove to Ethan's office building and parked where I could see the entrance. At 6:30, I watched him walk out with Vanessa. They weren't touching, but the way they looked at each other made my chest ache. I followed their car to an upscale restaurant across town. Through the window, I could see them at a corner table. No other clients in sight. Ethan reached across the table and took her hand, the same way he used to hold mine. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Ethan, meeting running late. Might grab drinks after. I took a picture of them through the window and sat there, staring at it. Part of me wanted to burst in and create a scene. Instead, I drove home and did something worse. I acted normal. I left his dinner in the oven, graded papers at the kitchen table, and waited. He came home at 11, smelling of expensive wine and wearing guilt like cologne. Sorry I'm so late, he said, kissing my cheek. These clients are demanding. That's okay, I replied, gathering my papers. How was the restaurant? He froze for a split second, so brief anyone else might have missed it. What restaurant? The one where you had your meeting. I kept my voice casual. I drove by on my way to pick up groceries. Looked nice. Another pause. Oh, right. Yeah, it was good. I headed upstairs, leaving him standing in the kitchen. In our bedroom, I opened his closet and found the shirt he'd worn to work that morning. There was a smudge of red lipstick on the collar. Vanessa had been wearing red lipstick at dinner. I carefully hung the shirt back up and got into bed, my mind racing with possibilities. Ethan thought he was so clever, living his double life. But he had no idea what was coming. Tomorrow, I decided, I would start making some plans of my own. The credit card statement arrived 3 days before Ethan's planned trip to Chicago. I wasn't supposed to see it, he usually handled all the bills online, but this one came in the mail by mistake. Sitting at our kitchen table, I stared at charge after charge that told the story of his other life. Dinner for 2 at places we'd never been. A jewelry store purchase from last month, probably explaining the bracelet I'd spotted on Vanessa's wrist at the restaurant. Hotel charges from business trips that now made perfect sense. My hands were steady as I laid out the evidence on the table, the credit card statement, screenshots of emails, photos from the restaurant. Then I waited. When Ethan came home, he was humming. Actually humming. He stopped dead when he saw me sitting there. We need to talk about your upcoming anniversary trip to Chicago, I said quietly. His face did something complicated, surprise, fear, then smooth confidence. What are you talking about? Don't. I pushed the evidence toward him. Just don't. He glanced at the papers, then at me, like a chess player calculating his next move. Harper, I can explain. Explain what? How you've been fucking your vice president of marketing. Or how you've been spending our money taking her to 5-star hotels. It's not what you think. Really? I laughed, and it sounded strange even to my ears. Because I think you're planning to spend our anniversary weekend with another woman. Please, tell me how I'm misinterpreting that. He sat down heavily, running his hands through his hair. You've been so distant lately, always focused on your students, your lesson plans. When was the last time you actually paid attention to me? The audacity of his words hit me like a physical blow. So this is my fault? I didn't say that. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. But relationships are a two-way street. Vanessa. She sees me. She understands the pressure I'm under. And I don't. I've supported you through every promotion, every late night, every weekend working. I've built my entire life around you. That's the problem. He stood up, pacing. You've lost yourself in being my wife. You used to be fun, spontaneous. Now it's all about your work, your routine. I felt something snap inside me. My work? I'm a teacher, Ethan. I shape young minds. What exactly do you do that's so important? Push papers and apparently your coworkers? His face darkened. See? This is exactly why. Why what? Why you couldn't keep it in your pants? Why you had to destroy our marriage? It's not destroyed unless you make it that way, he said, his voice softening. We can work through this. I'll end it with Vanessa. We can go to counseling. I stared at him, really seeing him for the first time. This man who could stand there, offering to fix things like he'd dented my car instead of shattering my entire world. When did you stop loving me? I asked. I never. Because I stopped loving you about 2 minutes ago. The words came out calm, certain. When you tried to blame me for your choices. He reached for me again. Baby, please. I stepped back. Don't call me that. Don't touch me. In fact, don't come home tonight. Or tomorrow. I need time to think. This is my house too, he protested. The house that my inheritance helped buy? The one that's in both our names? Yeah, we'll see about that. Something ugly flashed across his face. You're being hysterical. Let's talk about this when you've calmed down. I am calm, I said, and I was. Eerily calm. But you should know, I sent copies of everything to my lawyer this morning. Just in case you were thinking of doing any creative accounting before your trip. He went pale. You're bluffing. I picked up my phone, showed him the email confirmation from the law firm. Enjoy Chicago, Ethan. I hope she's worth it. As I walked upstairs, I heard him calling after me, his voice tinged with panic. But I didn't turn around. Instead, I went to our bedroom and started packing his bags. The time for tears was over. Now it was time for war. The 2 pink lines on the pregnancy test felt like a cosmic joke. I sat on the bathroom floor of my sister's guest house, where I'd been staying for the past week. Staring at the little window that had just complicated everything. 3 tests. All positive. A knock on the door made me jump. Harper? You've been in there for 20 minutes, Chloe called out. I opened the door and wordlessly held up the tests. Chloe's eyes widened. Oh shit, she whispered. Are you sure? As sure as 3 different brands can make me. She sat down next to me on the bathroom floor. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, my phone buzzed. A text from Jenna, having dinner with Ethan tonight. He's a mess. Says you're not answering his calls. What's going on? My stomach lurched, and not just from the morning sickness I now realized I'd been ignoring. Jenna, my supposed best friend, who'd introduced me to Ethan 8 years ago, was having dinner with him? Unbelievable, Chloe muttered, reading over my shoulder. Want me to tell her what her precious Ethan's been up to? No. I stood up, suddenly energized by anger. I'll do it myself. An hour later, I walked into the restaurant where Jenna had tagged herself on Instagram. They were sitting in a corner booth, their heads close together. Ethan's hand was on Jenna's arm. "Well, isn't this cozy?" I said, approaching their table. They jumped apart like guilty teenagers. Jenna's face flushed red. "Harper. I was just trying to convince me to take him back." I pulled out my phone and showed her the photo of Ethan and Vanessa at dinner. "Did he tell you about her? Or about the Chicago trip he's planning for their romantic getaway?" Jenna's face crumpled. "He said you were being paranoid. That you were making things up because you were jealous of his success." "Of course he did." I turned to Ethan. "You're good at that, aren't you? Spinning stories, making people believe whatever version of reality suits you best." "Harper, please," Ethan stood up, reaching for me. "Let's talk about this privately. Like how you privately discussed our marriage with Jenna. Or how you privately planned your affair with Vanessa." Other diners were starting to stare. Ethan's jaw tightened. "You're making a scene," he hissed. "No, you made the scene when you decided to destroy our marriage." I felt oddly calm, even as my world was imploding again. "By the way, Jenna, you should know, he's been using the engagement ring fund we've been saving for your brother to pay for hotels with Vanessa." Jenna gasped. Her brother and his girlfriend had been waiting months for Ethan to make good on his promise to help them buy a ring. "Is that true?" she demanded. Ethan's silence was answer enough. "I trusted you," Jenna whispered, gathering her things. "I defended you to Harper. God, I'm such an idiot." She rushed past me, tears in her eyes. Ethan watched her go, then turned to me with fury in his eyes. "Happy now? You've ruined everything." "No, you did that all by yourself." I placed my wedding ring on the table. "I'll have my lawyer contact yours about the divorce." "Harper, wait." His voice softened, became pleading. "We can fix this. Whatever you want, counseling, a fresh start, anything." For a moment, my hand drifted to my stomach. Should I tell him? Would it make a difference? But then I remembered how he'd blamed me for his choices, how easily he'd lied to everyone we knew. "The thing is, Ethan, I don't want to fix this anymore. I want to be free of it. Of you." I walked out of the restaurant into the cool evening air, leaving him calling after me. My phone was already buzzing with messages, probably Jenna, maybe Ethan, possibly even Chloe checking on me. I ignored them all and drove to the drugstore instead. I needed prenatal vitamins. Whatever happened next, I had more than just myself to think about now. And I was done letting Ethan Ellis determine my future. The ultrasound screen showed a tiny flickering heartbeat. 8 weeks along, the technician said. I'd asked for the first appointment of the day, hoping to avoid running into anyone I knew at the hospital. "Would you like a picture to take home?" she asked. I nodded, thinking about the baby book my mother had kept for me, filled with ultrasound photos and milestone markers. This child's book would be different. No proud father smiling in the pictures, no joint announcements to family and friends. Lucas was waiting in the hospital cafe when I came down. He'd insisted on driving me after finding me throwing up in the faculty bathroom yesterday. "Everything okay?" he asked, sliding me a ginger tea. "Yeah, it's..." I pulled out the ultrasound photo, then quickly tucked it away as I spotted a familiar figure approaching, Vanessa Reed. Wearing a designer suit and a concerned expression that looked rehearsed. "Harper," she said, stopping at our table. "I'm glad I ran into you. We should talk." Lucas started to stand, but I grabbed his arm. "Whatever you have to say, you can say it in front of my friend." She sat down uninvited, folding her manicured hands on the table. "Ethan's a mess. He's not eating, barely sleeping. This situation is affecting his work." "That must be inconvenient for you," I said, fighting another wave of nausea. "He loves you," she insisted. "What we had. It was a mistake. We've ended it. When? Before or after I caught you? She had the grace to look uncomfortable. I know you're hurt, but... No, I cut her off. You don't know anything about me. Just like you don't know anything about love. Love doesn't book hotel rooms behind someone's back. Love doesn't destroy families for fun. It wasn't like that, she protested. We never meant to. To get caught? I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. Tell Ethan if he wants to discuss anything, he can talk to my lawyer. And Vanessa? That promotion you're up for? Good luck explaining the company's morality clause to the board. Her face went pale. You wouldn't. Try me. She hurried away, her heels clicking on the hospital floor. Lucas whistled low. Remind me never to get on your bad side, he said. I made it 3 steps before the dizziness hit. Lucas caught me as my knees buckled. I need to sit down, I mumbled. You need to eat something, he corrected, flagging down a nurse. 20 minutes later, I was back in an exam room, hooked up to N4 for dehydration. The doctor was frowning at my chart. Your blood pressure's concerning, she said. Have you been under unusual stress lately? I laughed until tears came. You could say that. Well, whatever it is, it needs to stop. This pregnancy is high risk now. You need rest, regular meals, and absolutely no drama. No drama. Right. I was about to text Chloe when my phone lit up with a message from Ethan. We need to talk. Coming to Chloe's tonight. Important. Don't do it, Lucas said, reading over my shoulder. Whatever he wants to say, it can wait. No, I said, touching the ultrasound photo in my pocket. It's time he knew. All of it. That evening, I sat in Chloe's living room, the ultrasound photo on the coffee table between us. Ethan stared at it, his face unreadable. Is this some kind of joke? He finally asked. Funny, I was about to ask you the same thing about our marriage. A baby won't fix this, Harper. I'm not trying to fix anything. I'm telling you because you have a right to know. What you do with that information is up to you. He stood up, running his hands through his hair. I can't deal with this right now. I have the Chicago trip, the merger. And Vanessa? I asked quietly. His silence was deafening. Get out, I whispered. Harper. Get out. As the door slammed behind him, I felt something inside me break. But this time, it wasn't my heart. It was the last thread of hope that the man I married still existed somewhere inside the stranger he'd become. The morning Ethan was supposed to leave for Chicago, I woke up to find my bank accounts frozen. All of them. Even my personal savings account from before our marriage. He's trying to force you to talk to him, Chloe said when I called her, panic rising in my throat. Don't give in. But I had bills to pay, prenatal vitamins to buy, and a lawyer who needed her retainer. I had no choice. I agreed to meet Ethan at our house, our former house. Walking in felt like stepping into a museum of my previous life. Family photos still hung on the walls, my coffee mug still sat by the kitchen sink, everything perfectly preserved like the moment I'd left. Ethan was waiting in the living room, looking immaculate in his business suit. You're late. You're a bastard. I remained standing. Unfreeze the accounts. After we talk. He gestured to the couch. Please sit. I'll stand. Fine. He loosened his tie. I've been thinking about the baby. Don't. We could try again, he continued as if I hadn't spoken. Marriage counseling, a fresh start. I'll cancel the Chicago trip. Too late. I already sent the board of directors proof of your affair with a subordinate. His face darkened. You what? They're reviewing it this morning. Probably why your phone's been buzzing for the last 5 minutes. He grabbed his phone, color draining from his face as he read the messages. Do you have any idea what you've done? Exactly what you taught me to do, protect myself. By destroying my career? He stood up, hands clenched. I built that company from nothing. And I built a life with you from nothing. Guess we're both losing things we care about. His laugh was ugly. You think you're so clever? You have no idea what I'm capable of. Actually, I do. I pulled out my phone, showed him the screen. I'm recording this conversation. Every threat, every attempt at manipulation. My lawyer's going to love it. Your lawyer can't help you if you can't pay her. He stepped closer. How long can you last without access to your money, Harper? A week? A month? How long can you last without your reputation? I countered. The board knows everything, the affair, the misused company funds, the fake expense reports. Even that business trip to Vegas that was actually a weekend with Vanessa. His hand shot out, gripping my arm. You vindictive bitch. Let go of me. My voice shook, but I held my ground. Or I'll add assault to the restraining order I'm filing tomorrow. The front door opened. Lucas stepped in, followed by Chloe. Everything okay in here? Lucas asked, his tone making it clear it wasn't really a question. Ethan released my arm, straightening his suit. We're fine. Just having a private conversation. Not anymore, Chloe said, moving to my side. Harper? I nodded, suddenly exhausted. We're done here. No, Ethan said, desperation creeping into his voice. We're not done until. His phone rang. He glanced at it, swore, and answered. I could hear raised voices on the other end. While he was distracted, Lucas guided me toward the door. But Ethan's next words stopped me cold. What do you mean, suspended pending investigation? This is ridiculous, she's lying about everything. The pregnancy, the affair, all of it. The room spun. I grabbed Lucas's arm for support. What did you just say? I turned back to Ethan. He covered the phone. You heard me. You think you're the only one who can play dirty? I told the board you're mentally unstable, making up stories because I asked for a divorce. Including this convenient pregnancy. The pain started low in my abdomen, sharp and insistent. Black spots danced at the edges of my vision. Harper? Chloe's voice seemed far away. You're bleeding. The last thing I saw before everything went dark was Ethan's face. Watching me fall with the same cold detachment he'd shown when I told him about our baby. Some things, I realized as consciousness slipped away, you can never take back. And some betrayals cut too deep to ever heal. The hospital room was too bright, too sterile. I woke to the steady beep of monitors and Chloe asleep in a chair beside me. My hands immediately went to my stomach. The baby's stable, a nurse said, appearing at my bedside. But you're on strict bed rest. No more stress. I almost laughed. No more stress. Right. There's someone insisting on seeing you, she continued. Your husband? We can send him away if you prefer. Before I could answer, Ethan appeared in the doorway. He looked wrecked, tie gone, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under his eyes. Chloe jerked awake. Get out. Please, he said, his voice rough. 5 minutes. I nodded to Chloe. She squeezed my hand and left, but not before shooting Ethan a look that could have melted steel. He approached the bed slowly, like I was a wounded animal that might bolt. The doctor showed me the ultrasound. Now you believe me? Harper, He sat heavily in the chair. When they rushed you into emergency, there was so much blood. I realized. That I wasn't lying. My voice was steady, despite the tears threatening to fall. That maybe I wasn't the crazy, vindictive wife you painted me as to save your precious career? I got the call while you were in surgery. The board voted unanimously. I'm out. He laughed hollowly. Funny how none of that seems important anymore. Don't. I turned away. Don't pretend you've suddenly grown a conscience. It's not pretense. Seeing you collapse, knowing I caused this. He reached for my hand. I pulled away. You didn't just cause this, Ethan. You chose it. Every lie, every night with her, every attempt to destroy me, those were choices. I know. And I'm sorry. Please, let me try to make it right. For you, for the baby. There is no more of us. I cut him off. The man I married died the moment he chose another woman over his family. Harper. But you want to make it right? Fine. Here's how: sign the divorce papers. Release the accounts. Walk away. And the baby? We'll know they have a mother who loved them enough to demand better than a father who only showed up when he had nothing left to lose. His face crumpled. For a moment, I saw a glimpse of the man I'd fallen in love with, vulnerable, real. But then I remembered how easily he'd worn other masks before. I do love you, he whispered. No, you love the idea of me. The wife who made you look good, who supported your dreams while setting aside her own. But that woman's gone. The monitor's beeping increased. A nurse appeared, frowning at my vitals. I think it's time for you to leave, she told Ethan. He stood, straightening his shoulders. The accounts will be unfrozen by morning. I'll have my lawyer send over the signed papers. Goodbye, Ethan. He paused at the door. For what it's worth, I really am sorry. I know, I said quietly. But sorry doesn't fix what's broken. After he left, Chloe and Lucas came back in. Lucas handed me a chocolate bar, my favorite kind. You okay? He asked. I touched my stomach, feeling the smallest flutter of movement. No. But I will be. The board called, Chloe said. They want to talk to you about Ethan's replacement. Apparently, they're impressed with how you handled everything. I don't want anything to do with that company. Maybe not, she smiled. But they're offering a pretty generous settlement to keep it that way. I closed my eyes, suddenly exhausted. The past weeks felt like a lifetime, each betrayal and confrontation leaving its mark. But for the first time, I could see beyond the pain, beyond the revenge. Sometimes winning isn't about destroying your opponent. Sometimes it's about finding the strength to walk away and build something new from the ashes of what was lost. 6 months later, I stood in my new apartment, watching the sunset through floor-to-ceiling windows. My baby girl kicked inside me, strong and steady, like she was reminding me we'd made it. The divorce papers had come through last week. Ethan signed everything without argument, including the generous settlement and support agreement. I heard through Jenna that he'd moved to Seattle for a fresh start. Vanessa had apparently moved to London. Good riddance to both of them. Earth to Harper, Chloe called from the kitchen. These boxes won't unpack themselves. I was sorting through the last box when I found it, my old wedding album. I'd forgotten I'd packed it. Want me to throw it out? Chloe asked, watching me carefully. No, I said, surprising myself. It's part of the story I'll tell her someday. About how her mom found her strength. The doorbell rang. Lucas stood there with takeout and paint samples. Thought you might want to start planning the nursery. He'd been doing that lately, showing up with just what I needed, exactly when I needed it. Not pushing, just being there. It scared me how much I'd started looking forward to his visits. Perfect timing, I said, letting him in. Though I should warn you, Chloe has strong opinions about color schemes. I heard that. Chloe called out. And I'm right about the yellow. As they playfully argued about paint colors, I opened my phone to a new email from Ethan. My heart didn't race anymore when I saw his name. I signed up for therapy, he'd written. Not to win you back, I know that's impossible. But because I need to understand why I destroyed the best thing in my life. I hope someday our daughter can know a better version of me than the man I was. I didn't respond, but I didn't delete it either. Some wounds need time to heal, and some stories don't have neat endings. Harper. Lucas was watching me, concern in his eyes. You okay? Yeah, I said, putting my phone away. Just thinking about endings and beginnings. Speaking of beginnings, Chloe interrupted. Lucas, tell Harper about that house for sale near the school. He shot her a look. I was going to bring that up naturally. What house? I asked. It's nothing, just. There's this craftsman with a great yard, perfect for kids. It's close to both our schools, and. He ran a hand through his hair. I know it's too soon, but maybe someday. The old me would have panicked at the hint of future possibilities. But I wasn't that person anymore. Tell me about the house, I said. Later that night, after they'd left, I sat in what would be the nursery, surrounded by paint samples and half-unpacked boxes. My daughter kicked again, and I placed my hand over the spot. You know what, little one? Sometimes the happy ending isn't the one you planned. Sometimes it's better. I picked up my phone and typed a final email to Ethan. I hope you find what you're looking for. She deserves to know both her parents found peace. Then I picked up my phone again and texted Lucas, about that house. When can we see it? The future stretched out before me, not perfect but full of possibility. I thought about the woman I'd been 6 months ago, desperately trying to hold on to a life that was already gone. I wished I could tell her that losing everything would lead to finding herself. But maybe that's the thing about rock bottom, you can't see the way out until you start climbing. And sometimes, just sometimes, what you build from the ruins turns out to be stronger than what fell apart. I looked at the paint samples scattered across the floor, each color representing a different possible future. Tomorrow, I'd start painting. Tonight, I'd just breathe, grateful for endings that make way for new beginnings.
I'll handle the inheritance distribution. If you don't like it, let's get a divorce. Just after returning home from my mother's funeral, I was shocked by the unbelievable words from Anthony. Overwhelmed, Anthony quickly laid out 2 pieces of paper on the table, urging me to reply. But my anger exploded, and I decided to divorce him. Yes. Anthony, expecting me to meekly agree to his proposal, was confused by my response. Ignoring him, I stormed out of the house where I had lived for many years. I headed straight to a certain place to carry out a plan. My name is Janet Miller, I'm 30 years old. I work at a bank and am a housewife, married for 5 years to my husband Anthony, who is 5 years older than me. These 5 years, I've been living a hellish life. Anthony works at a local bank, and he is at the very bottom in terms of performance. He lacks motivation at work, thinking it's fine as long as he meets the bare minimum, which has made him an outsider at his workplace. Seriously, the guys who work hard at their jobs are just making fools of themselves. It's smarter to relax and take it easy, right? When I went to pick up a drunken Anthony from a company party, I was speechless to see him making pathetic comments to his juniors. Although his words might seem as if he handles his job well. Having heard about his work attitude from his colleagues, I was appalled at his audacity. Anthony is the type who mocks those who genuinely strive hard. How can he handle his days with the least effort? That's all he cares about, mocking those who try hard. He has no intention of trying for a promotion. His lack of enthusiasm and passion means he'll probably end up a sidelined employee, mocked by his colleagues and juniors alike. And I, his wife, have become his outlet for relieving stress. I also work as a freelance artist. Although Anthony had respected me for being a professional, his attitude changed dramatically after we married and he learned about my annual income. Anthony started to look down on me once he realized that being an artist wasn't very lucrative. It's funny you can even say you make a living with art, with such a low income. Your skills are nothing more than amateurish hobby level, aren't they? While we were dating, he praised my paintings, but after our marriage, he has been constantly belittling my work. Especially on days when he faced unpleasant things at work. It became routine for him to sigh just upon seeing my face. It's nice for you, being able to work so comfortably. I have to suffer every day being nagged by a noisy boss. Why don't you do a job that actually adds to our income a bit? Repeatedly subjected to his sarcastic remarks, I gradually began to lose confidence in my painting. However, I was mentally supported by my customers who came to buy my artwork. Ladies who told me how happy their husbands were when they received my paintings for their birthdays, and parents who chose my paintings as gifts for their children. Despite Anthony's relentless sarcasm, it's thanks to the customers who desire my paintings every month that I can continue this job. Most of my work was done in the living room of our home. The living room is well lit, and when I open the windows, a pleasant breeze comes in. The house my mother bought for me is designed to help me concentrate on art. And drawing in the living room has always felt wonderful. Sometimes, just breathing the outdoor air or looking at the view from the window can inspire great ideas. However, Anthony gradually began to frequent the living room, tarnishing my place of relaxation. Can't you see I'm working? You might be off, but I'm drawing a commissioned piece. If you're going to be sarcastic, could you please leave? It's distracting. For some reason, Anthony would come to the living room only when I was working, either to vent about work or to make sarcastic comments at me. It's really getting in the way of my work, and I wish he would leave. Expressing my true feelings led to Anthony sneering at me. Talking back to your husband who's on a break like that. Who do you think you're living thanks to? Anthony often threatens me because my annual income is lower than his, despite him not earning much himself. The trigger for Anthony becoming like this was probably when I chose him to handle a regular savings account. Once he knew how much I earned and saved, he started treating me completely differently than before we were married. I thought you lived a more affluent life. But it turns out the only capable one was your mother. You're completely useless. Your mother must have been so disappointed, thinking she could pass the company on to you. But because she raised a helpless child, she had to leave it to someone else. I couldn't stand how he belittled and mocked me because my income was lower than his. However, as he said, I am now able to live doing what I love. If I wanted to honor my mother, I should have been the one actively managing the company. But after discussing it with my mother, I chose not to follow that path. You should live freely, dear. I don't intend to make you walk the old-fashioned path laid out by us. Do what you love and pursue your passions. I want to support your actions. Encouraged by my mother's words, I pushed forward with my current path. But the more I tried to explain my feelings to him, the uglier our arguments became, draining my energy. Thinking it foolish to continue, I decided from that day to stop responding to him. I let his words go in one ear and out the other, letting him say whatever he wanted since it no longer mattered. I learned from long experience that the best way to preserve my mental peace was to dismiss his rants as the ramblings of a pitiful person. Once Anthony realized I wasn't responding anymore, he lost interest and would click his tongue before returning to his room. Because it was just words, ignoring him posed no problem. And I continued to disregard what he said. However, everything changed suddenly when my mother, who had been living in a facility, passed away. My mother was the president of a major car manufacturer with over 7,000 employees. At the time, it was the most popular car manufacturer in the US. And there was no one in the industry who didn't know her name. Thinking ahead, she resigned as president when I was 28 years old. She wanted to pass on the leadership to the next generation. And knowing that I was focused on my painting, she entrusted the company to my best friend, Sherry Clarkson. Sherry and I are childhood friends and close as family. She lived nearby, and my mother trusted her completely. However, Anthony is unaware of this fact. Sherry asked me not to tell him about our friendship. I thought about whether or not to tell you since it's a story from our school days. But after hearing about your recent situation, I thought it would be better to let you know. Sherry told me about Anthony from our high school days. Though they were in different classes, they knew each other by name. And Anthony was known for being a troublemaker who stood out for all the wrong reasons. You know how there's always one in class. The type who disrupts the class just for fun and enjoys teasing the teachers. That's your husband. I didn't have same class as him, but I heard from my friends who took the same class. Sherry made sure to visit our home when Anthony wasn't around. She had changed her last name after getting married, so even at our wedding, Anthony didn't realize she was a former classmate. Thanks to this, Anthony still doesn't know about my close friendship with Sherry. I've mentioned having a close female friend, but he seems uninterested in any part of my life that doesn't involve money. He ended the conversation with a simple, "Do whatever you want," and never asked about Sherry. I heard rumors that he was greedy about money even back then. Some people were upset because he hadn't returned the money he borrowed. So I wondered if you were okay. Since you're a bank employee and he's been providing for the house. I thought there was no need to say anything and kept quiet. But I still have only negative impressions of him, so that's why I asked you to keep quiet about me. It would be troublesome if he started asking for money under some pretext. Seeing Sherry smile wryly as she spoke, I couldn't help but sigh. I had never sensed such a side of Anthony before we got married. On the contrary, he appeared to be a sincere and upstanding young man. The type that parents would likely approve of. That was the impression he made at first. Our meeting happened when Anthony attended an exhibition where I was participating. At that time, I was feeling stuck with my painting and losing confidence. As I pondered whether to continue while painting day after day, Anthony spent hours looking at one of my paintings. You've been looking at that painting for a while, haven't you? While other paintings gathered interest from visitors, Anthony was captivated by a painting that no one else noticed. I was curious about his behavior, so I couldn't help but speak up. I'm sorry. Was it not good? No. Not at all. I was just wondering why you were looking at that painting for so long. Anthony lacks an aesthetic sense. But perhaps it's precisely because of that lack of sense that he said the next words. I don't understand. Honestly, I have no interest in artistic things. But somehow, I can't take my eyes off this painting. Even when my friend who invited me said it's time to go home, I couldn't move away from it. I'm sure the person who painted this must have felt a lot of pain and struggle. Maybe even redrawing it several times. I don't know why, but after thinking that, I couldn't move. I mean, what am I even saying, right? I don't know anything about art. Anthony scratched the back of his head with a bitter smile, and I was truly drawn to him. Hearing those words from someone who knew nothing about art made me feel rescued. Someone saw and understood my struggles. Feeling incredibly happy, I found myself revealing that I was the artist. This revelation kickstarted our interaction. Although Anthony had no interest in paintings, he visited every exhibition where I displayed my art. Can I visit your studio sometime? I'd really like to see you paint. I was pleased that he took an interest in what I do. Simultaneously, I began to find him intriguing and invited him to my home. Then, he confessed his feelings. I want to continue seeing you paint freely by my side. I had never met a man who said something like that before. I was genuinely happy and accepted his proposal, and we started dating. I thought we would surely walk a happy path together. At the time, my parents, who were still alive, were overjoyed to learn that I had a boyfriend. My mother even bragged to her friends about it. You've always been uninterested in boys, so focused on your art. As a parent, there's nothing more joyful than seeing you find happiness with someone. That's right. And, because I'm in this condition, if there's someone to look after you, I can pass away in peace. At that time, my father was suffering from cancer and had received a terminal diagnosis. Still, he fought to see me in my wedding dress. And I managed to show him that before he passed away. Relieved to have seen me married, he passed away shortly after the wedding. Following my father, my mother also became frail and was admitted to a facility. Her brain was fine, but she no longer had the strength to live on her own. And she never regained her vitality after moving into the facility. Finally, recently, just before she passed away, she said she was ready to join my father. I was engulfed in grief, unable to concentrate on my art when Anthony, bizarrely, seemed jubilant and drank heavily. Finally. Now that old hag's inheritance will come your way, right? It's been a long time. I was getting tired of playing the good son. Even though he was drunk, the unbelievable words he uttered shocked me. Doubting my ears, I asked him to repeat what he just said. What did you just say? Are you out of your mind? He had been ridiculously drunk at the ceremony too. So I initially thought it might just be drunken nonsense. However, even then, such words were unacceptable. Frowning, I asked him again, and he smirked as if mocking me. Of course. If I didn't suck up to your parents, I might not have gotten the inheritance, right? Hey, is my name written in the will at all? Surely it must be mentioned a little, right? Who has it? A lawyer? Fury rose within me. My parents had just passed away, and here he was, emotionally wrecking me, talking about money? Talking about money at such a time? I felt despair at his unbelievable insensitivity. Stop it. Don't talk about such things so casually. Can't you distinguish between what should and shouldn't be said? I usually don't let my emotions show when talking to Anthony. But this time, I couldn't contain myself. The more he acted like he had been nice to my parents only for the inheritance, and showed his true colors after they passed away, the more I felt hatred surge within me. Listening to Anthony, who only thought about money, reminded me of what Sherry had told me about his past. I heard those rumors about him being money-minded back in those days. The stories from our school days turned out to be true. The moment I realized that, my feelings towards him instantly cooled. Why are you shouting so much? I was enjoying myself. But you've really killed the mood. Anthony's attitude, as if I had ruined the atmosphere, only increased my frustration. I had tolerated it before because he had always treated my parents well. But if this was his plan from the beginning, was our marriage a sham? Was his sudden interest in art all fake? I began to question every action of his. And then he did something shocking. The next day, when I entered the living room, Anthony, unusually awake, was waiting for me. Completely sober, Anthony seemed unusually composed. I wondered if he had something to say as he gestured for me to sit opposite him, as expected. I sat down as instructed, and stared at him suspiciously, wondering what he had to say. Then, unexpectedly, Anthony placed a divorce decree with signatures, along with what seemed like a covenant, on the table, and abruptly began an unbelievable conversation. I was drunk yesterday, so I wasn't thinking clearly. Let's talk again. Did you confirm with the lawyer about the will? I couldn't understand how he could still talk about money today. After I explicitly told him to stop yesterday, does he not remember? Yesterday's derogatory remark about my mother was one thing, but where does his memory end? And where does his reckless talk begin? No. Even if it was a spur-of-the-moment remark, I won't forgive him for insulting my mother. I won't let him get away with those words. Filled with rage, I confronted him with a powerful voice. Yesterday, I told you not to talk about it, so how can you casually bring it up again? You insulted my mother, and yet you offer no apology. Hey, calm down. That's harsh. It's bothering me. If calling her that upset you, I'll apologize. My bad. Is that okay? What kind of apology is that? His insincere apology only fueled my anger. Even after I reasoned with him for a while, Anthony showed no signs of remorse. All I got were half-hearted apologies, and the conversation remained at an impasse. Thinking that there was no point in further questioning him, I redirected the conversation to the inheritance issue. I haven't heard anything from you or contacted anyone. Besides, isn't it too early to think about the inheritance? When we haven't even sorted through her belongings. Mom just passed away, for God's sake. I see. Then, sign this covenant. What? I was astonished as I read the contents of the covenant handed to me. What is this? The document stated that the distribution of the inheritance would be left entirely to my husband, Anthony, and I would not interfere in any way. Furthermore, it explicitly stated that violating it would result in divorce. I was speechless at the contents of the document, which I couldn't believe. I'll handle the inheritance. If you don't like it, we'll get a divorce. After all, your inheritance will become mine, won't it? So, it's my right to do whatever I want with your belongings. Your belongings are mine too, and married couples share property, right? I'm offering to take care of you, who can't work. Be grateful. The moment I heard those words, something inside me snapped. I rose from my seat, facing down, and without signing the covenant, I turned towards my room and began preparing to leave. Hey, wait. What are you doing? Sign it. If you don't like it, we'll divorce. Are you listening? Yup, I can hear you loud and clear. So, I'm going to start packing up to leave. Huh? Surely, Anthony must have thought I would sign without a fuss. Seeing him stunned by my unexpected response, I almost burst out laughing. What are you talking about? Divorce means we're breaking up, you know? Do you understand what that means? I understand perfectly well. That's why I'm going to pack up my things, so don't bother me. The resentment and frustration that had been building up over the years had reached its boiling point when I saw Anthony yesterday. And now, the final nail in the coffin, this covenant. There's no way we're not getting divorced after this. Ignoring Anthony's bewildered expression, I hastily started packing. Anthony tried to intervene from the side, but I didn't pay him any heed. Anthony, desperate to find a way to stop me, seemed too flustered to notice anything around him. I quietly grabbed the divorce papers, making sure he didn't notice, and decided to leave the house I had lived in for years. Well, thank you for everything. Huh? Hey, wait. Ignoring Anthony's frantic call, I got into the waiting car I had arranged and sought refuge at my parents' house. And then, I headed to the bank where Anthony worked to execute a certain plan. Mrs. Miller. Anthony had taken time off for handling estate matters. So, it was quite surprising for someone's wife to suddenly show up at the workplace. It's only natural for them to have a surprised expression. Thank you for everything. Is the branch manager available? I have something to discuss, so if you could call him, I'd appreciate it. I smiled broadly as I requested the branch manager. Well, if it isn't Mrs. Miller. What can I do for you? Oh, no need to call me Miller anymore, we're strangers now, not even a married couple. Mr. Smith, I have something to talk to you about. The sudden announcement of my divorce caused a stir within the bank. Ignoring the surprised reactions around me, I continued speaking. Close the account with $300 million. Also, please close the personal savings account I had created immediately. I don't think I'll need the services of this bank anymore. Excuse me. The branch manager seemed visibly shocked by the sudden request. Another employee who thought it was a major problem must have called for Anthony. Anthony, in his casual attire with disheveled hair, hurriedly rushed to the bank. Hey, what the hell are you doing, saying stuff like that? Anthony, please calm down. Please come to the meeting room for now. Mrs. Janet, please come along too. With uncertainty about what to call me after hearing about the divorce, the branch manager led Anthony and me to the meeting room. The remaining employees looked at Anthony with surprise, and murmurs criticizing him could be heard in the background. Feeling the unwanted attention, Anthony seemed annoyed and glared at me as if blaming me for attracting it. But I didn't see his gaze at all. Maintaining a firm posture, I silently followed the branch manager. Eventually, we were guided to the meeting room, where Anthony and I sat side by side. And the branch manager asked about the situation, clearly confused. What's the meaning behind wanting to close our accounts? Can you explain? Exactly what you heard. I want to close all the accounts I have. Hey, what's this about closing accounts? I didn't hear anything about this. It's not surprising, since I didn't discuss anything with Anthony and brought up the account closure matter directly with the branch manager. While I was feeling exasperated at his obliviousness, the branch manager explained the situation to Anthony again. You're divorcing her, and she's asked to close all the accounts we hold for her. What's going on, Anthony? I haven't heard anything about a divorce. No. I haven't acknowledged any divorce. And we haven't divorced yet. She's talking crazy. I couldn't help but laugh sooner than I could hold it back, thinking how dense he could be. Seeing that, Anthony seemed to glare at me as if to say, what's so funny? What are you talking about? We're divorced. I signed the divorce papers that were on the living room table and submitted them to the city hall. What? As expected, it seemed he hadn't noticed that I had taken the divorce papers from the living room. Upon realizing that the divorce papers had been accepted, Anthony exclaimed in surprise. And the branch manager, confused about what was happening, looked at us in bewilderment. You were the one who signed it first, weren't you? Why are you so surprised? I took action like that because I want a divorce from you. Didn't you think that's why I did it? I realized I can't live with someone like you anymore, so it's perfect. Our interests align, and since the divorce papers have been accepted, there's no need for property division. The house is still in my name, so please vacate it within 3 days. Otherwise, I'll sue you for forced eviction or illegal entry. Wait a minute. What do you mean you've gone ahead and completed the divorce proceedings on your own? That's just a baseless rumor. It was just a pretense to get me to sign that covenant paper. Anyone could see that. Covenant paper? The branch manager, who had been watching over the marital dispute, must have thought it wise not to interfere unnecessarily and risk getting caught in the crossfire. But upon hearing about the covenant paper, he couldn't help but express his surprise. Perhaps thinking, what's going on, as he looked at Anthony. However, Anthony couldn't speak honestly about it. Although he couldn't do his job well, he had covered it up with his pleasant demeanor. Revealing this would mean abandoning the only strength he had, and his social credibility would plummet. He might even end up unable to stay at his workplace. Realizing that Anthony was desperately silent, I eagerly confided in the branch manager. Actually, my mother passed away. And I was presented with a covenant paper with a threatening statement like, "If you don't leave the inheritance distribution to me, I'll divorce you." I reached my limit and decided to divorce. What? No. That's not. I just got a little greedy. I didn't really mean to do something like that. I was just joking. Anthony was desperately making excuses to the branch manager. But such words were unlikely to reach his ears. Glances of dismay were directed at Anthony for his actions, which deviated from common decency. Noticing those stares, Anthony was at a loss for words, pondering how to handle this unfavorable situation. But I wasn't going to let him off the hook that easily. I continued to press him further. Signing it and then calling it just a prank? Did you think I would just laugh it off and accept it? You insult someone's mother as an old hag the night before. And you openly admitted to trying to win favor with my parents for the inheritance. Remember that? Did you forget? Wearing a smirk designed to provoke Anthony, I confessed facts that would lower his value as a person. Seeing this, the branch manager looked at Anthony with contempt. Caught in a moment of panic by his gaze, Anthony's eyes widened, and his face went pale. He seemed to realize that if he didn't do something, his reputation would be ruined. However, I wasn't going to let him off the hook. I continued to pile on the pressure. So, I want you to close all the savings accounts that I had created for you. Also, please close the account with $300 million that I had saved during my single days. $300 million. He probably thought there wouldn't be much damage if it was just his own account. But the moment he heard about the $300 million account, Anthony exclaimed in shock. Why do you have that much money? You can't earn that much with those old-fashioned paintings, can you? It's simple. My main job isn't in that field, so I have money. What do you mean? That's not your main job? Seeing Anthony's confusion, I let out a deep sigh. Then, I took out a business card from my bag and handed it to him. This is my main job. Painting is just a hobby, more like a side job. The CEO of that company, is that your parents' company name? Wait, did you inherit that old hag's company? Even in front of the branch manager, who was watching, Anthony insulted my mother and hastily covered his mouth. However, it was too late. The branch manager was already staring at him with a stern expression. The president of that company should be Sherry. Why are you the CEO? Huh. How do you know about Sherry? I never talked about the company at all, did I? I didn't even mention being connected to Sherry. How did you find out? Sweat dripped down Anthony's forehead as he realized his mistake in a panic. In response to Anthony's disbelief, I confessed the shocking truth I had learned from Sherry. The answer is simple. You started pursuing Sherry for money, didn't you? I just heard from Sherry on the phone that you contacted her on social media, mentioning her mother. With that said, I began playing the recorded phone conversation I had obtained with Sherry's permission for everyone to hear. The recording contained details of the day he contacted her, along with evidence, including exchanges suggesting he invited her to a hotel. The branch manager, upon hearing the unbelievable truth, grimaced, while Anthony turned pale. He was completely speechless. Sherry and I are friends, didn't you know? You probably just thought of me as an acquaintance who inherited her mother's company. You thought that was all, right? But too bad. Sherry and I have been childhood friends and have a complicated relationship. I kept silent about being the CEO, anticipating that something like this might happen. Realizing the truth, Anthony probably realized that I had outsmarted him. He was unable to say anything in response. Sherry, so to speak, is what you'd call a hired CEO. The company belongs to me, the owner and CEO. Your luck ran out when you contacted Sherry without doing any research. As Anthony chuckled in a mocking manner, the branch manager cleared his throat and addressed Anthony with a stern gaze. Understood your behavior at home very well. Extremely disappointing. Thanks to you, our bank's sales will plummet. Wait, Mr. Smith. I'll talk to Janet right now and make sure we resolve this. Please. Can't you give it a rest? I have nothing to discuss with you. And canceling this won't make a difference. At that moment, the branch manager turned to me and proposed an idea. If we fire this man from our bank, will you wait before canceling the contract? Huh. Shocked by the branch manager's statement, Anthony couldn't believe his ears. I, too, hadn't anticipated this turn of events and looked on with interest. We'd prefer not to cancel the contract. When we weigh continuing your contract against keeping him employed, it's clear that we value our contract with you. He's been garnering a bad reputation at work, and we've been struggling with his behavior. Such an inept person, both socially and professionally, is unwanted in our company. If it means we can continue our contract with you, we won't hesitate to fire him. That's a violation of labor laws, isn't it? I'll sue. Upon hearing those words, the branch manager straightened up and began exposing Anthony's misconduct one after another. Feel free to try. In return, we'll also bring to light all the despicable acts you've committed against female employees and younger colleagues. Don't think I'm unaware of everything. If you're going to take legal action against labor laws, then we'll hire a lawyer to deal with it appropriately. Realizing that everything was out in the open, Anthony was completely disheartened and fell silent, regretting his actions. This wasn't supposed to happen. Why? Ignoring Anthony's pitiful words, I directed cold words towards him. The consequences of trying to exploit people for your own desires will inevitably come back to haunt you. All of this is the result of your own actions, so reflect on it and accept your guilt. And so, the long battle between Anthony and me came to an end. Since then, Anthony was fired from the bank and moved out of my house. Although he desperately begged to withdraw the divorce until the end, the moment he threatened to call the police, he panicked and fled back to his parents' house. However, since I had already spoken to my parents-in-law beforehand, Anthony was kicked out by them. Of course, it didn't end there. I consulted a lawyer about Anthony's past verbal abuse and submitted the evidence I had secretly collected over time. Through the lawyer, I decided to claim compensation. Sherry also claimed compensation for the persistent invitations to hotels and harassment remarks from him. Since Anthony's intentions were aimed at our mother's inheritance, his tendency to waste money left him broke, and now he lives in poverty. I heard he lives in a shabby apartment and works tirelessly from morning till night to repay his debts. Regaining peace in my life, I have fulfilled both my work and personal life. You seem very lively lately, Janet. Both your art and your expression have brightened up. Thanks to your support. I'm very active with my brush now. And I can't help but enjoy drawing. Even I could see that my artistic skills had improved significantly. There was an art dealer among the customers who highly praised my paintings. Thanks to that, the popularity of my art soared, and I finally got to hold a solo exhibition. Thanks to Sherry, the company's sales have been steadily increasing. And now it has developed into a globally recognized top-tier automotive manufacturer. In between, I also worked to cover for Sherry's job, and now we support each other, determined to protect the company left by our mothers. After marrying Kevin, who works at a multinational company, I was persuaded by him to switch to part-time work. Then, Kevin began to look down on me. The day after we moved into our long-desired new 5-bedroom house, I came home from work to find Kevin had invited his mistress and their love child over. "Susan, get out of here right now," he ordered me. "I'm going to live with my mistress and our love child. Parasite, get out of the house." Amy also smirked and hurled abuse at me. Understood. I loaded the moving boxes into the car and left the house. 2 weeks later, I arranged to meet Kevin and returned to the house. "Susan, let's try this trendy to living apart together marriage," he said pretentiously, to which I replied, "Huh? But I'm single? What?" I confronted them with the copy of divorce certificate showing his name, and even Tracy gasped. Confused, Kevin saw me lift my lips. "The arrogance can only last so long. I'll let you feel the same desperate feelings I experienced. I am Susan, a 48-year-old housewife. I have been married to Kevin, who is 8 years younger, for 15 years. We met at work. Our parent company teamed up for a joint development of a new product. Kevin wasn't particularly skilled but was popular among the female staff, due to his serious attitude at work and his gentle manner. Although I liked him, I thought it would be bothersome to him as I was 8 years his senior. So I was careful not to get too close. So, I was shocked when he proposed a relationship with marriage in mind. "Susan, you're so dependable, it feels reassuring to work with you. I think about building a home with someone like you." His eyes sparkled as he spoke, filling my heart. I knew some male colleagues said behind my back, "She's unappealing. She's too competent for a woman and presumptuous." So, I was incredibly happy. After a year of dating, we got married. After our engagement, Kevin suggested something. "I'm not good with kids. So, I want to keep living just as a couple." I understood. I actually wanted children, but at 33, being able to marry a husband 8 years younger was enough happiness for me. So I gave up on having children. At that time, I had no idea about Kevin's hidden side. Both Kevin and I work full-time. Our incomes are decent, making us a so-called power couple. However, as if it were natural, Kevin pushed all the household chores onto me. It's a common story I hear around, but despite deciding to split the chores equally, he easily broke the promise after marriage. "Working late, I'll hurry home," he messaged, and when I got home, Kevin greeted me with a scowl. "Sorry, I'm late. I'll make dinner right away." Huh, the steak is gone. I had prepared the steak in the morning, intending to just grill it later. But it was nowhere to be found. As I rummaged through the fridge, Kevin nonchalantly said, "I had the steak for lunch. See, I took the afternoon off." "What? The potato salad too? Just make it again." "So, how long until it's ready?" I felt deflated. I had no beef or potatoes left. It would take over an hour to go to the nearest supermarket and start chopping onions again. I need to go buy ingredients, so it'll be ready after 9 p.m. "Didn't you know it was for dinner?" As I complained, Kevin's eyes bulged. "Don't get mad just because I nibbled on the dinner, you're so petty. I had nothing else to eat for lunch, so I couldn't help it. Instead of complaining, why don't you hurry up and go buy it?" What an outrageous thing to say. I was also tired from just getting home and hungry. Seeing my face, Kevin clicked his tongue and put on his coat. "Forget it. I'm going out to eat." Kevin suddenly extended his hand in front of me. "What? It's your fault, so give me some money." I couldn't believe my ears, but I didn't want to argue any further. So I took out a $50 note from my wallet and handed it to Kevin. That night, when Kevin returned home late, he was in a good mood. But I was left with lingering feelings of frustration after settling for salads for dinner. In addition to this, even though Kevin would come home on time, he wouldn't bring in the laundry or would skip his turn to clean on weekends. In any case, all household-related chores were entirely left to me. When I confronted him, he would always repeat the same excuses. Household chores are a woman's job, aren't they? I'm tired from work. Even if our salaries are almost the same, my job is tougher. I was sick and tired of arguing about chores when Kevin's relocation to a regional office was decided. I've been appointed as the leader of a new project. Guess I'm being expected, huh? He proudly spoke as he changed into his home clothes after returning home. Lately, you've been doing a lot of overtime, business trips, and working on holidays, haven't you? But try not to overdo it. And keep the drinking with your subordinates moderate. I know. Kevin chuckled. A few days after celebrating Kevin's promotion with homemade dinner, he spoke to me while I was cleaning up after dinner. Susan, this is perfect timing. You can quit your job now. What? I was taken aback, and Kevin smiled. You feel responsible and couldn't quit, right? Now you can be a full-time housewife. I was at a loss for words. I love my job, and despite being busy, I've been working hard since joining the company as a new graduate. Had Kevin been listening to anything I said before we got married? My income alone is enough, there's no need for you to work. But, look, you've been neglecting the housework lately, right? Women shouldn't work. Just take care of the house. I was speechless. Was he really such an old-fashioned thinker? I strongly wanted to continue working, but I also hesitated to make my husband go on a solo assignment the year after we got married. Reluctantly, I quit my job, and we moved to the countryside together. I didn't want to argue about household duties, but I really wanted to work and negotiated persistently until Kevin finally gave in. All right, I'll allow you to work part-time. But from now on, I'll manage the household finances, Kevin said with a resigned look. I'll take care of your salary, allocate it for savings and living expenses, and give you some pocket money from what's left. See, I often have meals and drinks with my subordinates and colleagues, so I need some discretionary funds. Yes, that's fine. Subsequently, Kevin transferred jobs every few years. His work involved giving advice at regional branches and helping out at busy stores. Since I work part-time at a nationwide supermarket chain, I was able to keep working at stores near our new locations. Despite being part-time, I continued the same job for over 10 years, gradually accumulating experience. Even though my work schedule changed and I had more time to manage household chores properly, Kevin continued to find fault. When he was in a bad mood, he would nitpick about a small speck of dust in the corner of the hallway or a slight stain on the gas stove, and nag me incessantly. My mom would do the housework perfectly even when she was dizzy with a high fever. Why can't you do it, Susan? He compared me unfavorably to his mother, who was a full-time housewife. It's terrible to think that a family would let a sick person do household chores. But it seems plausible with his domineering father and submissive mother. I do physical work for half a day before I even start cooking. There might be a bit left uncleaned. I pursed my lips. If you're going to complain so much, why don't you help out? You haven't even washed a single dish since we got married. When I couldn't stand it anymore and retorted, Kevin became furious. Huh? You want me, who works at a multinational company, to do household chores? I'm more tired than you are. I shrank back at Kevin's angry shout. You just have an easy part-time job. I who graduated from a prestigious university, am working on a job that carries the future of the US. And you, a third-rate university graduate, dare to complain to me? It doesn't matter where you graduated from. Shut up. Who do you think allows you to live comfortably in this house? If you have a complaint, we can get divorced right now. While waving a divorce paper he had apparently obtained at some point, he glared at me. After the argument, Kevin locked himself in his room. He would eat his meals there and ignore me when I spoke to him. For a while, he wouldn't even make eye contact with me. 2 days later, while I was preparing breakfast, Kevin came down the stairs in his pajamas and came straight to the kitchen to hug me from behind. "I'm sorry about the other day, I went too far," he whispered gently in my ear. I sighed softly. It's always like this. After a quarrel, Kevin would eventually come to me with a sweet voice, apologizing as if he were a different person from the day before. "I tend to rely on you too much because you're older, Susan. I took out my frustrations on you because my boss was mean to me. I'm really sorry." It was hard to push him away when he spoke in such a subdued voice. "No, it's okay. I'll try to do better with the housework. You're already doing enough, Susan. Thank you for everything." His sweet voice made me forgive him again. After all, I love Kevin. Kevin is tired from work. I thought, he's really a kind person. Complaining to me is proof that he feels comfortable around me. In this way, I made up convenient excuses for myself, unable to fully hate Kevin's whims and verbal abuse. Even as I endured, Kevin's abusive remarks did not improve but worsened. Eventually, the follow-ups to his outbursts ceased, and it became a daily routine for him to get angry over trivial things or to treat me with a sullen face. One day, a decisive incident occurred that cooled my love for Kevin. Kevin got the flu. Since we live on one floor of a company housing complex, it's difficult to separate our living spaces like in a detached house. I moved my blanket to the living room to keep our bedrooms separate. Although I cared for Kevin by bringing him soup, jelly drinks, and water, he seemed dissatisfied. "You sleep in a different room even though your husband is bedridden with illness? Are you even a wife?" He snapped at me in a hoarse voice. "I'm sorry, but you know I have work." It would be serious if I caught it. I spoke with regret, but Kevin's eyes widened in anger. "You're such a cold woman. Which is more important to you, me or your job?" "Work is important too. Besides, Kevin, you only have a slight fever and you still have an appetite, right? My body feels heavy and it's tough. It's a wife's duty to nurse me attentively. Devote yourself more to me." Although I inwardly scoffed at him acting like a kindergartner, he is usually healthy. So maybe it's tough for him when he's sick. All right. Unable to refuse a sick person's request, I moved the blanket back to Kevin's side and nursed him through the night. Predictably, as Kevin recovered, I caught the infection. Then, looking down at me as I lay weak with over 100-degree fever, Kevin declared, "Don't pass it on to me. I'm going on a trip with my colleagues." "You said that, didn't you? Then, could you buy some sports drinks and soup for me? I used up all of yours." Kevin's face twisted unpleasantly. "Do it yourself. I can't go out because of the quarantine. Not my problem. You got sick because you can't manage yourself. Deal with it yourself." With that, he left for his trip, seemingly in high spirits. As the door closed, I lay in my blanket, tears welling up in my eyes. Was he always this cold? He used to be so kind when we were dating. My body ached all over and my head was foggy from the fever. My throat was dry too, but I had to ration the last bottle of water by my pillow. I felt the remnants of my feelings for Kevin cooling rapidly. Somehow, I managed to avoid dehydration and recovered from the flu. By that time, I had decided to act on a plan I had been considering for a while. Since our marriage, I had moved with Kevin to company housing wherever he was transferred. But I had run out of patience with him. When the next transfer order came, I intended to stay put. Currently, Kevin was back at the headquarters he was at when we first married. There is a piece of land in the next town that I inherited from my deceased parents. I thought of building the spacious detached house I had always dreamed of there. When I told Kevin, his eyes widened in surprise, then lit up. A new 5-bedroom detached house? That sounds cool. Can I do the interior and layout the way I like? Sure, of course. Oh, a courtyard with parking for 3 cars? He seemed as excited as if it were his own. I realized it had been a while since I'd seen him smile. If we add a guest room with a wide veranda, a closet room, and a theater room, it's going to get even bigger. Sounds like a great house. They'll be happy too. What? Oh, nothing. He chuckled, shaking his shoulders. Half a year later, after various procedures were completed and the house was finished, we moved out of the company housing. I took the day of the move off because my workplace was short-staffed, and Kevin, who was able to take a day off, handled the unpacking while I went to work. When I returned from work, I saw an unfamiliar pink car parked in the brand new driveway. With a sinking feeling, I hurried to the front door. Opening the door, I saw Kevin's leather shoes next to yellow sneakers and leopard print pumps scattered about. From the back of the hallway, I could hear Kevin's buoyant voice. A girl with a youthful voice, and the voice of a young woman. Amy, do you like my house? Of course, Daddy. I can brag about this to everyone. It's great that you work for a big company. What about you, Tracy? It's more wonderful than I imagined. Living in such a house is like a dream. The woman's shrill voice was jubilant. You promised we'd live together once you came back here. It was worth waiting for you. I told you I'd call you. Kevin spoke confidently. But is it really okay to kick out your wife? It could be troublesome if she sues. It's fine. She's head over heels for me. If I threaten her with divorce, she'll hand over the house without a fuss. Kevin boasted. I married such a plain old woman. I've already given her more than enough good times. My cheeks flared with heat. Is that what Kevin really thought of me? By the way, Dad, why did you marry someone 8 years older? You're handsome, you could have had anyone. Amy asked curiously. It was for the money, obviously. He said, laughing. She had a lot of savings. She always brought her lunch, so she seemed good at housework. She's not popular, so a few kind words would make her do anything. Basically, like a maid. But now, she's clinging to your income, right? Poor thing. Tracy let out a vulgar laugh. Tracy doesn't want to get married. Cheating is easier for me. You can't enjoy the thrill of secret meetings if I were the wife. I see. They laughed uproariously. When I showed my face, the room went quiet, but Kevin soon yelled. Susan, get out right now. He ordered me imperiously. I'm going to live with my mistress and our love child. I looked around at Kevin's malicious smirk, Tracy's triumphant expression, and Amy one by one. Looking at Tracy Manning, I feel my guts boiling with anger. She was once a college student working part-time at Kevin's company. There had been rumors, but I believed Kevin when he denied them. I was betrayed after all. Parasite, get out of the house. Amy also spreads a mocking smile across her face. It took me a while to grasp what was happening. Ah. I see. I'm about to be usurped from the house I built by my husband, his mistress, and their love child. Suddenly, none of it mattered anymore. I didn't feel like arguing, just murmured weakly. Understood. I stepped outside, opened the back door of my car, and loaded it with moving boxes. I'll come back for the rest of my belongings later. With that, I left the house. Driving aimlessly, tears streamed down my cheeks. Realizing I couldn't drive properly in this state, I drove onto a major road and parked on the shoulder. Hunching over the steering wheel, I buried my face in my hands and tears flowed freely. Heartbreak and humiliation tore at me. I believed I had married out of love, even though I had sensed his infidelity. But to think that it had been going on right after we got married, and he even had a secret child. After a bout of sobbing, rage enveloped me like a storm. Any remaining affection had vanished completely. Clenching my back teeth, I trembled with anger and made a vow. Kevin, prepare yourself. You've trampled all over my feelings. Enjoy it while it lasts. After finding and signing a lease for a short-stay apartment, I moved the boxes there and sent Kevin a message. I want to discuss our future. I'll bring the divorce papers then. Kevin replied immediately. I have no intention of divorcing. It would affect my career. You'd want to boast about having a husband who works at a big company, wouldn't you? Oh, you don't have any friends. Annoyed, I responded. I didn't marry you for your job title. Huh. Whatever, but no divorce. I just want to live in that house with Tracy and Amy. After creating a mistress and a love child, how brazen can he get? It seems I have no choice but to hire a lawyer skilled in divorce cases and take this to negotiation. Thinking of getting advice, I arranged to meet Jenny, a former colleague who had gone through a divorce, after work the next day. The following day, waiting in a cafe near the office, Jenny showed up. I immediately apologized with my hands clasped. Sorry to bother you during your busy schedule. I wanted to talk in person. That's fine. I wanted to see you too. Have you been well? My hesitation made Jenny's face fall. Is it something about Kevin? Actually. As I spilled everything, Jenny's anger was palpable. That guy, he looks kind, but what a scoundrel. I trusted him because he's decent at his job and has good people skills. Jenny suddenly realized. Wait. Tracy Manning, isn't she the girl from those rumors? She interned when she was 20, right? Kevin denied having an affair, saying he wouldn't get involved with a university student. I lowered my voice. Yes. It started the year we got married. Kevin cheated with her and even had a child, continuing the affair until now. Unbelievable. What a despicable man. Jenny fumed, her face turning red. You should take a hefty compensation and let out your frustrations. No, that's too lenient. At any rate, we need to make him deeply regret betraying you. You often hear about men buying apartments for their mistresses. But kicking out his wife to live with them? That's insane. And he still doesn't want a divorce. How selfish. Jenny nodded in agreement as I vented. You're 40 this year, right? Currently a section chief? If things continue, you might be a department head in a few years. To think that a man who has wrecked his home commands respect at work, it's nauseating. Susan, are you just going to sit back and watch? Grinning, Jenny saw me shake my head. No way. After being treated like this, I'm not going to just cry myself to sleep. First, we'll need a private investigator. Looking me in the eye, Jenny spoke. I'll introduce you to the detective agency I used. They're expensive but reliable. The lawyer I hired for my divorce is trustworthy too. Yes, please. I've looked into it, but nothing seemed right. Draining her cup of coffee, Jenny encouraged me. If it helps, you can always talk to me. I'll listen to your complaints, so don't hesitate to reach out. I understood. Thank you. After thanking Jenny, I immediately called the recommended detective agency. A month later, after receiving the results of the investigation, I contacted Kevin again and told him I wanted to go to the house. Around noon, as expected, Tracy and Amy greeted me at the entrance. If I went into the living room, a tacky gold-decorated shelf that clashed with the Scandinavian interior stood out, and a cheap-looking sofa set took up too much space. Tracy addressed me with a pretentious tone. "Mrs. Anderson, you're our first guest." Amy baked some cookies as a welcoming gesture. "Please have some." "Cookies? I wonder if they might be poisoned." Watching Tracy Manning and Amy's snickering makes me think such thoughts. You wouldn't refuse cookies made by a child just because you're mean, right? Of course. "I'll have some." Reluctantly, I responded and sat down on the sofa I was guided to. Kevin looked on happily as Tracy and Amy eagerly tried to entertain me. Seeing how the interior I designed had been drastically altered, I felt disheartened. But then coffee and cookies were served. "Parasite, oh, I mean, Dad's wife, please enjoy." "Thank you." "I will." I forced a smile and picked up a cookie to eat. As I bit down, it was as hard as a rock, almost dislocating my jaw. "Susan, Amy's cookies are like crunchy snacks, aren't they delicious?" Kevin spoke with a dopey smile. "She dreams of becoming a pastry chef. She's got a promising future." "Dad, you're embarrassing me." "Stop praising me so much." From an outsider's perspective, this might seem like a sweet father-daughter interaction. But it made me incredibly angry. Despite his claims of disliking children and refusing family life with me, he had quietly fathered a daughter with his mistress. What was the point of my existence then? I felt unbearable frustration. "So, what brings you here today?" "It's obvious. I came to talk about divorce." I replied curtly, and Tracy twisted her body. "Please don't get me wrong. I have no intention of marrying Kevin." She leaned against Kevin and spoke in a sugary voice. "Divorce would affect his career, right? I wouldn't want to trouble the man I love. Tracy is my greatest understanding partner." Kevin lowered his eyes, smiling. "So Susan, how about we try this trendy to living apart marriage? Living alone might be hard with your meager salary, but well, try your best."
Yeah.
"Because you're a parasite, aren't you? Without Dad's money, you might end up on the streets." "But, Dad loves only my mom and me, so it can't be helped." Amy's words made Tracy smirk. "It's your fault for being dumped. Better luck next time." The three of them laughed uproariously, but I spoke in a calm tone. "Huh? I'm single, though." "What?" Their eyes widened as I presented the divorce certificate, showing his name on it, in front of Kevin, Tracy, and Amy. "Hey, what's this about?" "You handed this to me, Kevin." "Nicely agreed by you two," I said coldly. "Remember when we fought last time? You threatened me, saying if I couldn't listen to you, you'd divorce me." "Huh? Did that happen?" Kevin's face contorted. "I found it in the chest of drawers in the bedroom while I was packing to move. So, I submitted it to the office." Kevin's face turned red as he began to shout. "You can't just do whatever you want. What if I can't get promoted because of this?" "Exactly. You should take responsibility." "Oh please, you're just a plain employee, putting on airs." I chuckled, and Kevin froze. "What?" Lips pursed, Kevin began to tremble as Tracy and Amy looked at him quizzically. A friend of a friend works at Kevin's workplace. I asked them to dig up some info. I continued smiling as Tracy showed signs of panic. Kevin is an elite at a multinational company's US branch, right? He makes over $100,000 a year. Frequently called to advise nationwide because he's a graduate of a prestigious university. Dad's so smart. The two tilted their heads, puzzled, causing me to burst out laughing. A manager? He's just a section chief. And although he got promoted, he's been continuously demoted due to mistakes and mostly sent to regional offices. He's not competent at his job at all. Tracy's face stiffened, but she quickly plastered on a smile and hugged Kevin from behind. Oh Kevin, you're so modest. Did you think I would leave you over something like that? Isn't that nice, Kevin? Such a caring mistress. Why don't you just come clean about everything? I cheerfully suggested to Kevin, who had been staring at the table silently. If you won't say it, I'll expose it for you. I pulled out photos and investigation reports from my bag, laying them out on the table. Tracy and Amy leaned in to look. Tracy's face turned pale instantly. Who's this woman with a child with Kevin and 4 others? This girl looks a lot like me. Upon hearing that, Tracy's eyes widened. No way. As you guessed, they are Kevin's mistresses and secret children. Tracy and Amy gaped in shock. 1. After pointing at Tracy, I began counting the pictures. 2, 3, 4, 5. What's that? The ranking of mistresses. I smiled sympathetically at Tracy, who looked shocked. Lucky you, Tracy. It seems you were created first and are also the top priority. I kindly explained to the speechless Tracy. Kevin has been making mistakes at work and getting transferred. Each time, he'd frequent nightclubs and create lovers and children in various places. He told his lovers he was married, but kept it a secret that he had other affairs. Glancing sideways at a downcast Kevin, I continued. Even after transferring to other places, he'd meet them under the guise of business trips or vacations and give them living expenses. It's practically polygamy, so classy. Like an aristocrat from the ancient period in exotic countries. As I feigned admiration, Tracy clenched her fists. Amy was on the verge of tears. Dad, that's not true, is it? You said you loved Mom and Amy. Say something. But we're the most important to him, right? Tracy wrapped her arms around Kevin's back, looking at him with pleading eyes. He takes us to fancy restaurants, gives us regular gifts. He even invited us to his home.
Yeah.
Right. Giving us a house, that's the best. We're treated specially. Trying to convince themselves, Tracy and Amy spoke rapidly. I decided to set things straight. He never intended to give you this house. Suddenly, both turned hostile towards me. That's none of your business. Exactly. Just keep quiet, you parasite. I'm just kindly informing you in advance. I lifted my lips slightly and informed them. The house will be put on sale next weekend, so make sure you leave by then. What? What a waste. I built it with my savings. But I don't want to live in a house where a mistress and a secret child have lived. After a moment of silence, Tracy and Amy screamed. What? What's that about? This is Dad's house, right? No, it isn't. I built this house on land I inherited from my parents, in my name. I intended to live here alone after our divorce. As Tracy and Amy gaped, I continued. Yet, he chased out the owner to bring in his mistress and secret child. What was he thinking? You only managed to buy this house because of me. After being silent for a while, Kevin finally spoke. He glared at me fiercely and yelled. "It's because I allowed you to work that you could save money. I was the elite earner that gave you that luxury, even though you're brainless." Kevin trembled with rage, spitting as he shouted. "You're so presumptuous. You forget the favor I did by marrying you. Who do you think you are?"
Ah.
"Yes, of course." I dismissed him casually as Amy seemed to realize something. "Dad, you're just a regular employee now, right? You're quite wealthy to be taking care of not just us, but other mistresses too." "Well, he works at a big company, so he earns a good salary." "Unfortunately, no." I spread out Kevin's credit card statements on the table, and Tracy froze. Amy, looking over, screamed. "A debt of $20,000? That can't be true. Those are addressed to me, don't open them without permission." "I opened it by mistake." As Tracy and Amy reacted, Kevin clicked his tongue. What a surprise when I opened it. Debts, revolving payments, and even shady loans, totaling about $50,000? I smirked. That's what happens when you, earning less than me, flaunt money on mistresses and secret children. Liar. Kevin stood up suddenly and hurled insults at me. "There's no way you, a part-time shop worker, earn more than me. I thought you'd say that." I thrust my salary statement under Kevin's nose, and he gaped. Then slumped back onto the sofa, holding his head, muttering in a fading voice. "It's a mistake. Susan earning more than me." I scoffed. "A few years ago, I passed an exam and became a full-time employee. I've been recognized for my performance and am now the manager of this regional branch." The color drained from Kevin's face. "That's why I earn $10,000 more a year than you, Kevin. Otherwise, I couldn't have afforded to build this house. Why didn't you report this to me? Keeping secrets from your husband, how deceitful. A man who has mistresses and secret children all over the US has the nerve to say that?" I snapped back at a flustered Kevin. "Just so you know, even if you're on a low salary and in debt, I'll still be demanding a hefty compensation because it's been a long time. Be prepared." "What? I'm barely making ends meet as it is. It's impossible to pay more." "Hey, what's going on with you two?" He tries to stop Tracy Manning and Amy, who are grabbing their bags and coats and leaving the room. "I can't deal with this anymore. I'm going home." "What? Where to?" "This is your home, isn't it? It's not Dad's house, it's the wife's house." Amy smirks at the corner of her lips. "We used to mock the wife as a parasite, but it turns out Dad is the real parasite. I don't need a lying, debt-ridden father." Tracy also complains in a fed-up tone. "I thought it was okay to be a mistress as long as I was pampered with luxury. But being with a debt-ridden, hopeless old man is just a waste of time." "Old man? I'll find someone better.
Bye.
And don't contact me again." Tracy and Amy leave abruptly, and Kevin, chasing them to the entrance, collapses to his knees. "Tracy, Amy, please come back." Ignoring Kevin's crying. I was getting ready to leave when he suddenly made a proposal in a soothing tone. "Let's remarry." "What?" "I'll forgive you for filing for divorce on your own. Let's start over. I realize you are the most important to me after all." Stunned, I showed my cell phone to Kevin. "It's too late. I had a friend of Jenny's live stream everything to your boss." Kevin's face turned pale. "Your past mistakes may have resulted in transfers, but this time, you'll probably be fired." He gasps inaudibly and slumps to the floor. I leave the house without looking back at Kevin. It seems Kevin, having given up on rebuilding our relationship, persistently contacted Tracy and Amy wanting to reconcile. However, Tracy blocked all contact after moving her belongings from my house to a new apartment she had set up. Kevin, in a daze, was fired the next day after returning to work. During lunch, his colleagues showed him the commotion at our house on their phones. And his boss, who valued family, was furious. He was also told by the real estate agent that the house was being sold and had to move to a shabby apartment reluctantly. After I threatened to take legal action if he spoke of reconciliation again, he finally gave up. Through a lawyer, I demanded compensation from Tracy and Kevin, to which they quickly agreed. They paid me with borrowed money. So Tracy took up an additional daytime job along with her work at a bar. She's working non-stop, and her once glamorous appearance is now nowhere to be seen. Kevin also juggles multiple part-time jobs to cope with his mounting debts. Of course, he no longer has the time or money to frequent his beloved nightclubs. With the money from selling the house and the compensation from both, I moved into a high-rise apartment. Although it's a pity to let go of the custom-designed house, my new, simpler, and functional apartment is quite nice. I enjoy the city lights from the large windows. Now that I'm no longer forced to do housework by Kevin, I've switched to full-time work. From now on, I plan to fully enjoy life, watching movies and traveling, making up for all I had to restrain before. Isn't this soup too salty? It's too much. You should be more considerate of health. Mama used to be careful and made it with less salt. You should be more careful too. Is that so? I think it's just the right taste. Don't think based on your standards. Think about Mama's standards. What if this affects my work? Well, that's true. My husband Ted is a nurse working at a clinic run by his father and is extremely attached to his mother. He respects his mother, who supports his father working independently. And he persistently meddles with cooking and housekeeping, despite not doing anything himself. He has an abnormally dominant attitude and is annoyingly persistent in complaining if things are not up to his ideal image of a home. I thought, here we go again, mama, 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 mama. How much can he love his mama? After 2 years of marriage, Ted's true nature began to mentally exhaust me. Lately, I've been thinking about a divorce. By the way, my period has not come lately and I feel a bit off. I know it's your day off, Ted, but I'm going to the gynecologist. Just relax at home today.
Yeah.
Okay. I've been working part-time at a local bakery, and lately, the shop has been so busy that breaks are being neglected. I've always had a tendency to have delayed periods and feel unwell when I get tired. So I have been getting checked for menstrual irregularities at the gynecologist. Lately, the stress has been causing my periods to be late again, and I'm feeling unwell. How late are they? About 2 weeks. I see, let's do an ultrasound and, maybe a pregnancy test? A pregnancy test? Yes, if your period is more than a week late, there's a possibility you could be pregnant. The doctor's words reminded me of the past when I had a similar experience but nothing was found. I was surprised to hear the same thing back then, but, could it be pregnancy? Though I doubted it, the test result was positive. I felt happy inside, but I was honestly also anxious. I thought, can I endure that life in this situation? The more I thought about it, the more anxious I became. Hey. Ted, it looks like I'm pregnant. Huh, is that so? Aren't you surprised? No, not really. It's natural if you engage in sexual activities. It's good since you wanted kids. In the early days of our marriage, we used to share joy and sorrow together. But over 2 years, he became that cold, I felt sad at his attitude. 9 months later, after giving birth, my husband dropped another insensitive bomb. Hey, can we just get a divorce? What? Why? I've fallen for someone else. She treats me way better than you ever did. And I'm really happy now. His words, coming from his dominating and idealistic personality, actually made me feel relieved. I had been wanting a divorce for a long time, so I readily agreed. You know, having a nurse for a wife is really great. She manages nutrition well. Unlike you who's just part-time. Days after the divorce, he called to taunt me. And his new partner was a nurse working at his parents' clinic, which was taken over by Mr. Simpson. I realized something when I heard her last name. By the way, that clinic your wife works at, isn't it Mr. Simpson's? Who took over your father's clinic? You're sharp.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Simpson's daughter. She finished her training and joined the clinic this year. She's 10 years younger than me. I'm going to be a son-in-law. Oh, whatever. My husband didn't know that my father is the director of a well-known local general hospital. And I was connected to other people in the same field. He was unaware of the dramatic downturn his life would soon take. My name is Hillary, and my father is the director of a well-known local general hospital. I once worked as a nurse at my father's hospital, but I wanted to pursue what I truly desired. So I started a bakery in my hometown. Maybe I get bored easily? I started the bakery because I wanted to. But now I feel like I've burned out. Once I achieve my goals, I don't feel as passionate. You've always been like that, haven't you? But isn't that fine? Some people can't do what they want even if they want to. I respect you for being able to act on your desires. It's nice to hear that from you, but what do you think? Since we're on the topic, wouldn't you be better suited to run the bakery? How about you take over? Really? I wanted to try it myself, so if you're okay with it, I'll take it over. I originally managed the bakery but handed it over to my sister, preferring to work there at ease as a part-time employee. That's when I met my current husband, and after 3 years of dating, I married him at the age of 36. I'm getting married to Ted. I'm Hillary, nice to meet you. You're Robert's daughter, right? Yes, but why? Did my son say something odd during the greetings? What's wrong? No, it's fine if there wasn't anything. At this time, Ted's father was unusually submissive towards me. Curious about his demeanor, I asked my father about it once I got home. Well, he used to work under me at my hospital. So, did you lie about running a small clinic during the marriage introduction? I didn't want to unnecessarily intimidate them by revealing my circumstances. It's okay, for now, we can talk about it later. No, shouldn't you have clarified it back then? It was a surprising fact. I had no idea that Ted's father was a former subordinate at my father's hospital. Shouldn't we have communicated the facts clearly during the marriage introduction? Nevertheless, I never thought this choice would be significantly helpful in the future. It's funny that your marriage partner turns out to be Kevin's son. This is no laughing matter. It's fine, it will come out soon anyway. At that time, I was surprised at such an improbable situation and laughed. But after our marriage, everyday life turned into hell. Hey, why isn't dinner ready yet? Sorry, work has been busy and I'm late preparing dinner. If it was Mama, she would have left work early to prepare it properly. Why grilled fish? I've told you so many times that I like fried chicken. Mama always knew my favorite foods and prepared them accordingly. Sorry, I'll be more careful next time. Such complaints droned on every day, always about Mama. Initially, I reluctantly complied, but my husband's whims escalated day by day. Where's my underwear? What? my underwear, why haven't you prepared it? I can't change without it. Well, get it yourself. Huh? Isn't it your job to take care of my personal needs? Do it properly. Aren't you mistaken? You're an adult, not a kid, right? So? Isn't this normal once you're married? That's not normal at all. You need to stop this nonsense. What's that supposed to mean, talking to your husband like that? Honestly, it was too much. He increasingly imposed his ideals on me, acting more and more like the master of the house. He wouldn't help with the housework, nor assist me in any way. When he was home, he just lay on the sofa doing nothing, yet he took such a haughty attitude. If you say something foolish again, I'm going back to my parents' home.
Yeah.
Whatever, do as you like. I sometimes responded to his selfishness like this, but his reactions were consistently cold. Probably from this time, his affection for me began to fade. Due to busy work schedules, I couldn't visit my parents. And 2 years passed before my pregnancy was discovered. I barely remembered being intimate with him, so it was a mystery why I got pregnant. It seems I'm pregnant. Huh, is that so? It was sad to be treated so coldly after announcing the pregnancy. I had hoped that the arrival of the child might change his feelings. But that hope was shattered by his words. A few days after discovering my pregnancy, a call came from Ted's family home. Ted answered the call, shouting loudly, "Why? What happened?" After hanging up, he started talking to me with a noticeably dejected voice. It seems Dad has suddenly passed away from a heart attack. What? Why so suddenly? I don't know, Mama thinks it might be due to overwork. I was dumbfounded by the sudden news. Anyway, they want us to come to the hospital right away. We hurriedly prepared and headed to the hospital, but although I felt sadness, there was a sense of emptiness inside me. I couldn't think of anything, it felt almost like going to a relative's funeral. Mother, it's been a while. I never thought your husband would die suddenly. As soon as we arrived at the hospital, I greeted my mother-in-law. Then she wiped away her tears and started talking with a clear voice. As I said on the phone, he died of overwork. He was always trying to do everything by himself. By himself? How about Ted? I suppose he didn't think he could rely on our son yet? That's why he always tried to handle everything alone. Is that so? That's why Ted was often able to take time off. My emotions began to stir with sadness. Thoughts of my father-in-law's feelings and Ted's work situation swirled in my mind. Every time I thought about him struggling alone because he felt he couldn't rely on Ted, my heart ached. How are you feeling, Mother? Ted's mother had been gradually developing dementia over the past few years. Although my father-in-law's presence had managed to maintain her condition, I worried it might worsen now. Mama's fine. Anyway, from now on, I have no choice but to do my best, right? What are you talking about? You can't inherit that clinic. Dad's will stated that it should be passed on to Mr. Simpson after he passed away. Didn't you know? Huh? Is that so? So, I can keep working at that clinic for now, right? Yes, well, that's right. Until just now, he had a troubled look on his face, but suddenly it changed to one of complete relief. I could only feel distrust towards his attitude. Hey, Ted, aren't you frustrated? About what? Because it sounds like they said they can't leave it to you. Not really, as long as I can work, I'm fine. I always wonder why he is so indifferent and insensitive to the world. His mother casually said something that would hurt his pride, yet he responded nonchalantly. And his mother looked like she was running out of patience with him. Are you okay, Mother? Yes, I'm fine. I know his personality. I've been too indulgent with him. It seemed like she was blaming her own upbringing, but from my perspective, it felt like Ted's very nature was rotten. I felt she had no need to apologize, considering her words. After the funeral went smoothly, we returned to our normal lives. The thought of dealing with my husband's unreasonable whims again was disheartening. The taste of this stew is different from Mama's. Have my breakfast ready and wake me up by 5 a.m. His unreasonable demands increased. Since the clinic's director changed from his father to someone else. Perhaps his usual whims weren't getting him anywhere, and his work schedule became stricter. I could feel his irritation more than ever. It definitely felt like he was taking his frustrations out on me. Hey, I'm already 7 months pregnant. If you look at my belly, you can tell it's quite big now. Can you start doing things yourself? I'm not your slave. Huh? Even if you're pregnant, you're still my wife, right? You have to do your duties as a wife. Enough already. All you ever talk about is Mama. Mama, weighing every little thing between your mom and me. And then pushing your ideals onto me is crazy. You have no compassion for others. Our emotional clashes escalated day by day. One day, as I entered the 8th month of pregnancy, the stress led me to collapse and I was rushed to the hospital. I nearly miscarried. Even knowing the situation, Ted remained indifferent and hurried out of the hospital after completing the admission procedures. You need to divorce that husband of yours soon. If this continues, it'll endanger your health. Really, it would be terrible if it affected the child too.
Yeah.
I understand. I think it'll be resolved soon. I was happy to hear my parents caring for me. I had disliked saying I'm going to divorce him out loud myself. I don't know why I held on to such strange pride, but thanks to my parents, I was able to let go of it. I decided to tell my husband about the divorce next time he visited me in the hospital. But an unexpected event occurred. Although he hadn't visited me at all during my hospital stay, he appeared boldly in front of me on the day I gave birth, a full 9 months. And started speaking lightly as if throwing a jab. Hey, can we just get a divorce? Huh? Why? I've found someone else. She treats me much better than you ever did, and I'm happy now. The divorce discussion came not from me but from him unexpectedly. Moreover, he boldly mentioned his happiness with his new life, citing his affair. That was the last straw for me. Oh, really? Do whatever you want, I've been wanting to divorce you too. I see, my bad. I'll pay child support and property division, so let's end this amicably. I thought, what is he talking about? He thinks life will continue to go smoothly like before? He's in for a big surprise. Be prepared. The stress I had endured up until now from the marriage was significant. Enough to harbor hatred towards my husband. From a phone taunt after that, I learned that his new wife's father had connections with my father. Considering this situation, I started planning my revenge. I would use my father's influence to ruin my husband's life thoroughly. After some time, I moved back home with my child and left the house we had lived in. Ted paid me about $100,000 in a lump sum for child support and property division, thinking we had parted amicably. Then I discussed the future with my father, who was also considering revenge. Should we pull Ted into our hospital for now? What are you talking about, Dad? That would ruin the hospital's reputation. Don't worry, we can handle that. If we're going to get back at that fool, having him close by will allow us to corner him thoroughly. What's your plan? As I questioned his cryptic actions, he revealed a shocking fact. Did you ever think about when you exactly got pregnant? Now that you mention it. I didn't. You know, when you married Ted, the rumor spread among other hospitals. I heard through the grapevine that he was learning how to administer injections at a sperm bank. And rumor has it he said, I want to test if it really leads to pregnancy with my wife. What? Can he even do that? That's a crime. What was he thinking? Wait, then. I suspect he tested it on you. I have no memory of that. But that seems more likely. But why? Maybe he wanted a divorce? But that doesn't make sense. Why would getting me pregnant have anything to do with wanting a divorce? He probably wanted to create a reason for something, right? Perhaps pregnancy was the most suitable way to do that? My father's face was furious. It was the first time I had seen our gentle and calm father look so angry. Ted had done something that would not be surprising if it incurred my father's wrath. I felt that it was only natural for him to want to trap Ted too. Whether the rumor my father heard was true or not, I had to believe it given the pregnancy I couldn't account for. I became sad. Was this an unwanted pregnancy? I couldn't help thinking about whether it was truly the destiny of this child to be born. And tears began to flow uncontrollably. You shouldn't be sad. You gave birth to that child because it was meant to be born. The child is innocent. Make sure you give him a happy life. My father's words were kind. Yes, the child is innocent. If it's a life meant to be born, I will give my all to love and make him happy. That's why I felt a tremendous rage towards Ted, who played with life for his own ends. Hey, Dad, I don't know how to crush him, but beat him completely. I'll do whatever I can in return. Of course. I'm a doctor fulfilling my duties. Do you think I could just stay silent after what he did to my precious daughter? My father and our resentment towards Ted had reached its peak. A few days later, my father, as he declared, scouted Ted to our hospital. And on his first day, we met with him. It's been a while, good for you, being scouted to this hospital. Huh? Why are you here, and? Long time no see, Ted. I'll be counting on you to work well in our hospital from now on. No, but I thought you were just a small clinic's director. Sorry about that. I didn't want to shock you back then. And I never got a chance to tell you the truth until today. My father was putting significant pressure on Ted. He seemed cheerful earlier about working as a nurse in a general hospital. But his expression gradually clouded over, starting to emit an awkward vibe. Yes. I'll do my best. Just remember, if you do anything to tarnish our reputation, you're out immediately. Although my father spoke in a somewhat light-hearted manner, his eyes were serious. Ted seemed to realize this and responded with a forced smile. As days passed, it was clear he was increasingly worn out. The attacks from a dominant colleague and the cold looks from others due to his incompetence at work were taking a mental toll. He was less free than in his previous clinic, and it was clearly wearing him down. How's it going? Are you managing your work properly? I've heard you've been making a lot of mistakes lately. You must be tired, right? Yes. I see. Well, don't push yourself too hard. Make sure to take some time off. My father occasionally acted considerate towards Ted. But his incompetence was worse than expected. He made errors like failing to do proper handovers before taking days off. And mistakes in recording medical charts, which became prominent. And even patients started to complain about Ted. Finally, my father decided to fire him. Please wait, I beg you. If I get fired here, I can't go back to the family clinic. You understand how much trust you lose from people by working here without being capable, right? What do you mean? You know it. You were disowned by Mr. Simpson before coming here. With the reputation you've built up here, no clinic in the area will hire you if you go for interviews. Please wait, if you do this, I really won't have anywhere to go. It's your fault for accepting the scout from this hospital without understanding your own capabilities. Please. I'll do anything, even menial tasks. Can't you keep me at this hospital? That's impossible, I'm sorry. You're fired as of tomorrow. Don't come back. This was my father's revenge. Ted was already disliked by his biological father and Mr. Simpson, who took over the clinic. And they had discussed this. Everyone was fed up with his incompetence and wanted to do something about it. And then, my moment of triumph began. Hey, Hillary, I've been fired. I have nowhere to go now. And it's tough because I paid the child support to you all at once. And Mama's dementia is getting worse. I really need help, can we cooperate somehow? Impossible, please leave. Please, I can't handle this alone. Why should I? Don't you have a wife? About that. What about it? I got divorced. I thought so. You did the same thing to her that you did to me, right? He seemed lost for words. He might have finally started to understand how much harm his actions had caused. Isn't this just karma? As I looked down on the defeated Ted, I slapped a document in front of him. This is for damages. You could have been arrested for what you did, understand that. Huh? How do you know about this? Don't underestimate the connections in the medical industry. Everything you did to me is well known over here. In order to learn the details, following a referral from my father, I had called the clinic where Ted had banked his sperm. It seems that he indeed tried to artificially inseminate me while I was asleep to see if it would result in pregnancy. Upon discovering this fact, I gathered clear evidence, including testimonies and warnings from the clinic's doctor, who had advised against such dangerous actions, and submitted it to the court. Thanks to that, I was able to claim damages, and I slammed the documents down in front of Ted. Wait a minute, I don't have any money. Pay up. Or I can have you arrested by the police, which do you prefer? You've got to be kidding, why is this happening to me? It's all because of what you've done. Can you understand how the child feels, born out of your selfishness? More than how you've mentally cornered me? Do you understand how I felt when I found out the truth? Stop messing around. Playing with people's lives on a whim, you deserve this. I don't ever want to see your face again, just disappear from my sight. I unleashed all the emotions I had been holding inside toward Ted. The compassion I felt for the child was incomparably so strong that it made any harassment from this mommy's boy pale. As I yelled at Ted, tears of anger uncontrollably streamed down my face while I vented my feelings. Overwhelmed by my force, he cowered on the spot, knelt down, and began to grovel. I'm truly sorry. I now really understand your feelings. And how much you've endured my selfishness. I've realized how kind you were. So please, I'm not asking to get back together, but I need some support. I'm too broke to keep my house. No matter what you say, it's impossible. Please, just go home. I don't want to see your face, I hate you, just go. My final shout seemed to hit him directly, causing him to fall back on his buttocks from his kneeling position. I'm sorry. He muttered in a faint voice, barely audible, and then scurried away from the place like someone seeing a ghost. Since then, I have cut off all contact with him and have not met him. His mother's dementia has worsened, and he has been struggling to make ends meet in a job unrelated to medicine, trying to manage his finances as his incompetence has not helped him succeed in any job. Mama, I've even sold the family home. And now I can only afford to live in an apartment that costs $200 in rent. I didn't know I was always this incapable at work. I feel so pathetic. I feel like crying. Ted's face looked visibly thinner from stress as he realized his lack of life skills and incompetence at work. Young man, you've been calling me a mama for a while now, but who might you be? Her dementia had progressed rapidly after Ted's father had passed away. It had gotten so bad day by day that even though she had barely recognized Ted up until recently, she finally lost the ability to recognize him. Mama, you're joking, right? The dementia has progressed this far. We had heard about the increasingly dire situation of these two from acquaintances in the medical field through word of mouth. While I wanted to say Ted got what he deserved, I felt guilty about involving his kind mother in all this. It was frustrating to feel nothing but pity for her. Though I felt sorry for her, I just felt like asking her to take his side, despite the situation. It's been 3 years, and Michael has grown so much. So, I'm thinking about moving out of this house. Are you sure that's what you want? Your mother and I don't mind you staying, and we'd actually be happy if you stayed. My father said this, but my sister was getting married, and considering our family had only us 2 sisters, her husband had offered to join our family as a son-in-law. Plus, it was obvious that me staying at home was inconvenient, so I had decided to move out. What? You're moving out? I mean,
Yeah.
even though your husband is great with kids and looks after my child too, it feels awkward to stay at home. That's sad, but I guess it makes sense. I then visited a real estate agent I had relied on when I started my bakery to look for a property. Huh? Hillary, is that you? Sean? What are you doing here? This is my dad's company. No way, I had no idea. Well, Smith isn't a rare surname, so it's hard to guess. It turned out that the real estate company was run by a close male friend's father from high school. And I learned that Sean had joined the company after I had made the land contract for my bakery. No wonder I didn't know. Kinda nostalgic, huh? How about we gather the old crew and have a little reunion? A spontaneous reunion was decided on the spot, and I enjoyed catching up with old friends, talking about recent events and reminiscing about the past. Sean and I quickly became close. He listened earnestly to the story of what had happened with my ex-husband. And as I remembered those times, I cried bitterly, and he comforted me diligently. Sorry for bringing up such a gloomy topic at the reunion and crying. But just remembering it makes me cry. Stop it, I understand how you feel, so let's just enjoy some good drinks from here on out. After he said that, I continued to cry for a while. He held me in his arms until my tears dried up. Thank you, I'm sorry. After that, I grabbed a newly ordered beer and downed it in one go, determined to forget about the past and enjoy the night. Sean and I started dating, and a month later, we had a whirlwind wedding. If you're looking for a place to live with your child, why not come to my family's home? Let's live together. His words were essentially a proposal. Now, we live together in his family's home, which is well known in the area as a large landowner. Building a happy family with our new child.